Yes, so the Romford Horror Festival is ongoing as we speak. I will be in London. We're doing this in the past, but it's currently the present. This will be going out on social media for everyone to see. Everyone down at the festival will have just seen, or potentially whenever this goes out, will have seen the Puppet Killer feature, which we are showing. We showed it, I think it was a couple of years ago. We showed it in the main festival. It was absolutely slayed. Everybody loved it. So I had to get Lisa Ovies onto. That's how you say your last name, isn't it? Yes.
That's how white people say my last name. It's it's
Awesome.
it's OVAs, but Ovies has been how people have said it my whole life. So we're good.
OVAs is better.
Yeah.
I prefer that. We will say
Thanks.
that one. Yes, I have the director of the movie Puppet Killer, which if anybody at the festival right now has seen it, or if anybody has seen it at other festivals, you will know that this is a bonkers good time of a movie. Yeah, Lisa, I have been dying to talk about this movie because what the hell?
I know. I was gonna say most people start with like, "What is wrong with you?"
So I know in my mind what the Puppet Killer movie is. What is it to you when you wrote it? What is the story to you?
Uh let's see, it's hard because I don't know if this played right after the movie played, I would be spoiler full, but I'll be a little bit mindful just in case people
Yes.
haven't seen it yet. Basically for me, it's a love letter to 1980s horror. It's Army of Darkness, it's Evil Dead, it's Friday the 13th. It's all the movies that I was really influenced by as a kid. It's practical effects, which I'm really, really into. And it was just sort of my one kick at the can when no one could say no to me. Don't get me wrong, people still said no to me, but it was my signature film. You know, I've made a lot of films for a lot of people in a lot of capacities, from producer to actor to casting director, and even a director on other people's projects as a director
Mm.
for hire. And this was like, if I could do anything, what would it be? And I don't know what's wrong with me, but it was this. This is what it was that I wanted to do.
So you worked on all these other projects and everything like that, and you had a couple of shorts in the can yourself that you've done, and this was sort of your first proper feature as a director. And what was that like, going from doing those projects to going into your own baby, your own machine, and just making this? You shot it in 3 weeks, I believe, and like
That
the
just gave me anxiety to hear you say. Yeah,
yeah.
15 days over Christmas in the snow for half of it, then
Oh, that's
in
good.
snow for half of it, which for continuity was amazing. Um, because it takes place in 48 hours. It it was something. It was something. I mean, I had produced a lot of films. I'd done some feature films. I had had a lot of jobs in film specifically because I love it, and I mean from volunteering to paid. So I felt like I had a lot of, like, I had a good 10 years under my belt before I did
Mm.
it. So in that sense, I felt quite confident. Oh, as confident as you can going into something this crazy. uh, really low budget. I had phenomenal act. I mean, come on,
Mm.
my actors are like big players in Marvel shows, and
Yep.
they weren't then, but I mean, their talent was still there. So, you know, Richard was on the 100 at that point. Alex was on Van Helsing. Lee was on everything. Like, so I
Yeah.
had the safety net of knowing the talent I had was gonna be able to pull off something crazy that I was asking them. But it was still nerve wracking. I mean, it took a lot of trust. Everybody had to trust me because what we wanted to do was something that we wouldn't know if it would work until it worked. I can just see this reflection, so we're gonna take those off.
I know.
You know what I mean? Like, it was like some horror comedy. It's such a fine line to make it work.
So, I do have a question a little bit later on that I was going to sort of touch on that, sort of. But did this start as specifically a comedy and then evolve into a horror, or was it always going to be a horror?
It was always going to be a horror because I love horror movies, but it
Yeah.
was more slapsticky. I mean, it started as a short film, and it was just going to be self-indulgent for me. I was a casting director on a movie called Suspension at the time. It was really serious. I had just produced a film with puppets, and I just kind of needed to get something out of my system for me, where I wasn't making it for someone else. It was absolutely a short. I called Lee Majub, who's one of our leads in it, and I was like, "Hey, I've got this crazy idea," and I was expecting him to say it was crazy. And he
Mm.
loves horrors too. And he was like, "Oh my God, this is great." And it was slapstick when I first thought of it. It was more the scary movie idea, which is I think where people go with horror comedy, and which maybe I would have done as a short. Um, but as we started to talk about it, it got legs very, very quickly. And I kind of started realizing if I wanted my Shaun of the Dead. If I was going to do it bigger, I didn't want it to be a slapstick, and I have nothing. There's home for all of those things. There's nothing wrong with that version of horror comedy. But for me, I wanted it to be a real love letter to 1980s horror. And once it became that, it couldn't be making fun of them.
So you talked about some of your cast and your actors and the talent you had on board, and you do have some fantastic talent on board for this film. But let's talk about the most talented person on the set. Let's talk about Simon.
He's so great. I just yesterday saw the woman who was our puppeteer. Her name is Asia Matu, and I own an acting school and I own an improv studio, and I come from a comedy background, which is why I think even when I do the goriest of horror, like there has to be moments of levity in it. And she did such an amazing job as Simon. And she got the job not because she'd ever puppeteered before, but because she was tiny and bendy. She was one of my improv students, and she's a double black belt. She's really physical. And one day I was like, could I shove you in very small spaces with a puppet on your head or on your hand? And we had Maury Bernstein, who was one of the puppeteers from Team America. We couldn't afford her for the film, but she kind of taught us what we could in the little amount of time that we had her. And we wouldn't have this movie without Asia, obviously. She did such a great job. And then Lee Majoub, who is one of our leads, also is the voice of Simon.
Nice. And what was Simon like to direct? Because he's a foul-mouthed little shit, really.
So he's in my bedroom right now. He's my bestie. It was so interesting, and I give respect to everybody because everyone had their own vision. But for me, I really fought to make it practical. It wasn't that we had producers on standby with green screens and blue screens, and they're like, let's do it. And I was like, no, let's take our time. Like, let's do this properly. And there's some really amazing kills where it was a whole team of people, camera, actors having to act off of this. It was a challenge, but biggest note for my actors was treat it like a villain.
Yeah.
And I created this film with Kevin Mosley. He's who I ended up hiring to finish the script. And he wrote it like a Mike Myers. He had to live in the world and have the limitations of his size. Like when we wrote a scene where he went out a front door and came in the back, it takes him longer. He's got tiny little legs. So we had to really treat him like a real person. But it was a challenge. There's like scenes where Asia's in a full blue suit in case we ever did see her, underneath an actress in a tub with Simon, and we're just like making it up as we went along, basically.
I love that. And was there any sort of like, because you are dealing with a puppet, I guess, and you're trying to give your all to the role and the performance, but was there any moments when like yourself or the cast or the crew just cracked up a little bit, like, what are we doing?
I mean, I think the what are we doing happened all the time. Laughing, probably not as much as you would think. I think because it was so technical. It was so technical to pull everything off. We had such a short amount of time. We treated it like a serious movie. So our actors in their headspace were treating it as if they were in a slasher film being hunted down by a really serious killer, which I think plays to the success of the film is how well they did in that capacity. But yeah, I remember so many times people asking me about a setup or what we were going to do next. And I would be like, I don't know. It's a fucking puppet. Like, I genuinely don't know what we're going to do. We didn't have any rehearsal time other than a few camera tests with Maureen just to teach us certain things. And I think we were all just diving into the most bizarre summer camp, winter camp of our lives going, oh, fuck, I hope this works.
And when I mentioned earlier about potentially starting off as a comedy, my main reason for asking that question is that you have again a great cast here, but they're not exactly playing the age they are.
No, they're not.
What was the thought process for that? Because for me, it was sort of like it was a little bit more meta commentary towards like the high school dramas and everything, where the older people are playing young people. But Was that always a thing that you were going to do, or did you just fall on that like a happy accident?
No, that was always there. To me, I mean, my hero is Jamie Lee Curtis. And if you
Yeah,
notice, the lead males in my film are called Jamie,
Jamie.
Lee, and
Yeah.
Curtis. And bless Jamie Lee Curtis, but she looks 30 in Halloween and she's playing this babysitter. And so that's exactly what it was. It was like looking at all of these movies and Friday the 13th and all of these things where these teenagers they're just, they're not young. And if I was going to make them 30, it wouldn't have been a commentary. It would have been
No.
the same thing. So I was like, fuck it, let's make them 50. Like,
Yeah.
and then very specifically casting all of those teenagers in the high school so that that day we laughed a lot. I mean, now, I mean, we shot it a long time ago, but yeah, that was a fucked up day to look behind the monitor and see Bonovic just like tootling down the hall with his backpack on was such a joy to me.
It is quite, it's quite funny because when the movie starts and you get that and you're just sort of like, all right, so it's one of these types of movies, and then within about 10 to 15 minutes you're one of these type of movies.
Yeah,
you just got to go with it, and you just fall in love with it. And Alex Parnovic, is it Parnovic? He is just incredible as Jamie. He just completely embodies everything about it. Can you elaborate? I guess like you can't really talk for him, but what was his process like for getting to that space?
I'm so glad you said it because, I mean, he has been recognized a lot for this role, and obviously he's in Hawkeye and all of these amazing shows, and he's definitely has a lot of respect for what he does. But this role in particular, like even though he's been recognized so much for it, I just keep saying he doesn't get enough recognition because it's 5 gentlemen with that much power to soften and to play this role believably. And like he physically changed the way he stood. He physically changed the way he held his eyebrows. He did such an amazing job. And I remember he and I chatting about it, obviously, before. The pitch to him was interesting. I had just directed him in something else, and he and I played incestuous brother and sister. We have quite the relationship on camera, because then I play his mom in this one. But he was like, okay, I'm going to trust you. Which was such a gift. They all had to really trust me. But then, there was about a month later where he called and he's like, no, we got to talk through this again. What the fuck are we doing? And I was like, yeah, okay, we'll walk through it. So he very justifiably had hesitations. And then he jumped in. He does such a good job. I can't quite process what a good job he does. He's so tender and vulnerable and real and like all of that opposite of fucking puppet.
I think that's what it is as well, because it is that movie that like it could go either way, it could go one way or the other. But if your actors and if your talent are completely committing, it works. Like it just works on every level.
That was a conversation I had with people from the first day. And that, I've studied comedy for a long time and there's a lot of different kinds, but that's my kind. And so I was like, you can't look for the comedy. You have to play the drama. The comedy will find you. If anybody starts looking for the comedy, if anyone nods to it or winks to the camera, we are making a different film. And that's not the film I wanted to make. And with the heart of Simon, like I've had people say, it's a fucked up movie because they feel for the killer. They're like,
you love him.
They tugs at heartstrings in really weird, beautiful human ways, which Kevin lovingly wove into the story. So it was a juggle. It was a juggle for everyone, from writing to casting to the acting and directing. For us to pull off what we did was, there was a very good chance we weren't going to pull it off. But I was like, I'm going to die on that hill if we don't. So I'm so grateful it was so well received. Like, I have to be honest, when we did as well as we did on the festival circuit, I was surprised. Like, I knew I loved it, but I'm weird. So.
No, I think everybody loves it. It's a great little film. But
some people don't get the casting. And that's where we lose them. And I've had people write reviews that were like, couldn't she have just maybe she just couldn't get age appropriate actors. And I was like, do you know the caliber of actor I got? No, that was me. Like, that was on purpose. I didn't think I was actually pulling it off. Like, no part of me thought they looked high school. So not everyone does get it. So I appreciate that.
I will say that I did get that comment said to me at one point when watching it, and I kind of sat there and I was like, if that's your issue, you didn't get the movie.
And that's it. And I had to say that to everyone from the beginning too. Not everyone's going to like this movie. This
Yeah,
is not a movie for every. This is a movie for horror lovers, but it's also a weird movie for horror lovers. So you can't make a movie with any opinion in any genre and please everyone.
yeah.
So we kind of had to know that going in. And like, there's one review on IMDb that's like the lowest you could get, and it was like, of all the great horror puppet movies out there. I'm like, really? Fucking name me 4. Like, come on. Like, I was like, it's totally cool if you don't like it, but
That's
like that
brilliant.
made me laugh.
That is absolutely brilliant. Where like obviously there's two things that this movie screams to me. Well, there's a lot of things that it screams to me, but two of the main things are sequel, TV show. We
I
need
love
we
it.
need some of these things.
I love it.
But the second thing, where can we get ourselves a Simon? I need a Simon.
Oh my gosh. You know what? It's funny. Okay, so Simon's in my bedroom. Like,
Oh,
I keep
well,
him with me all the time because I don't want to piss him off. Uh and my mother, when she comes over, doesn't like it. But this was made as a prototype of a doll we were gonna release.
oh man.
Isn't he just a little cutie patootie? I would love to do merchandising. I was a little surprised again by how well the film was received and how many fans have asked us for Simon dolls, and I'm like, yes, I want Simon dolls. So I'd be all over it. I would be all over for some Simon dolls. And a sequel is something people have shockingly asked us about a lot as well.
So yes, we're getting one.
Well, I don't. We'll see. We'll see. This has been a long time coming. This movie took us a long time
That's right,
to
I
get
saw
out, and then with COVID, and then so yeah. No, I mean, I'm here for it. I'm working on a few other films right now, but there's no way I wouldn't turn down a chance to play with Simon again. Like, he's amazing.
And could we maybe get a girl Simon?
Oh, I never thought of
You've
that.
you've got Chucky and Tiffany. We could
Oh
have
my
a
God, a love story for Simon. I love
yeah.
that. Don't come
There you
after
go.
me if I use your idea. It was mine.
Oh no, you can have it. You can have it. 10%. It's all yours.
Perfect.
Um, so just a couple of quick ones to kind of start rounding out, and that is this movie has got a ton of horror homages, as any good horror movie does have. What's your favorite that you have in there?
Oh, homage. Good. Because people ask my favorite movie and it kills me. Probably Evil Dead.
Yeah.
Probably Evil Dead for me. I mean, that Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell were so influential on me. And we have a couple Evil Dead moments in there that I think are pretty pivotal to me, that really I got excited behind the monitor. And then there's a Halloween visual that's so stupid. I don't want to spoil it if people haven't seen it, but I just was like, Kevin wrote it, and I was like, that is the dumbest thing. I fucking love it.
Yeah.
I thought it was dumb in the best way when I saw it in Halloween. So when we did it with a puppet, I was like, this is amazing.
It just does. It's like that. It's like that Team America thing you mentioned. Team America earlier. Like the things that you think are just not going to work and are just going to be mad, like absolutely work.
Yeah, honestly, the amount of times we were behind the monitor and all like, are we doing? There was definitely days where I had a huge crew, everybody helping make this movie for so little money, and I would be behind the monitor trying to grasp how it was real that this many people were trying to make my fucked up little brain idea. This was not like some beautiful award-winning documentary or, drama with heart. This was me being like, what if we kill them all with a puppet?
And this one's either in the movie industry or just out there in the big bad world. Who inspires you?
Oh, great question. Originally, when I started making film, I didn't have a lot of women to look up to. So it was like the Robert Rodriguez and the Tarantinos and the Kevin Smiths, the Sam Raimis, the people that really wore all the hats, didn't necessarily go to film school, didn't really take the no, and didn't sacrifice what they wanted to make. As I'm evolving in the industry, Gigi Solguerrero, who's a really good friend, who happens to be a puppet killer, but that's beside the point. Greta Gerwig, Patty Jenkins. There's some Catherine Bigelow. There's some women out there that have fought so hard through things that people do not know women have to fight through just to become invited to a large table with one seat for them. So those are the people now that really get my jam going. There's a woman called Zainab, who is the president of Raimi Productions, who just produced 65 with Adam Driver. And watching these passionate women not take no for an answer, that's it for me. That gets me going.
Exactly, and it's about damn time. As
Yeah.
I said to you, I got 3 little girls, and they need someone to look up to. It can't just be the footballers.
Yeah.
'Cause we got a good women's team over here, but so you on that as well. This would be a perfect little spot for you to your film making class that you have. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, that I am so excited about. I created a program called Empower Her. It's a female filmmaking program. It's accessible online because I really didn't want geography to be another hurdle to stop people from making film. And basically, it is the opportunity for us to empower as many women as possible behind the camera. Right now, it's an 8-week online program. We have people that, I mean, Zainab just happened to be in today, being amazing, but we teach as many elements as we can in only 8 weeks. But I was frustrated with how few women were behind the camera. And I kind of had this moment of, how do you storm the castle? You know?
Yeah.
And I waited and I waited. And one day I was like, you build a bigger army. And no one else was doing it. I'm sure they are, and I hope to support them. But basically, I just took everyone I love and I said, let's do this as a team. And that's what we've been doing. And Raimi Productions actually does a full scholarship and sponsors a woman every term. And the woman that won the scholarship this year is from London, I believe. So
Nice.
that's really cool with the time difference. She jumps on and takes classes with us, which is so cool.
So awesome. That's so awesome. I'm glad you're doing that, and all power to you on that front. And other than that, what does Lisa have coming next? Are you working on any other projects right now, or?
I am. I mean, film is film, and I hope these things happen to get made. But in COVID and sort of coming out of COVID, I was really lucky to sign with a phenomenal management team in Los Angeles who are really supportive of ethnic representation. I'm a Mexican, the whitest one you'll meet, but I am, and Hispanic representation is really important to me. And I got signed on to work with a company called Mucho Mas. And if everything goes as is, I just delivered the final screenplay on a movie called Chupacabra, which is another Christmas horror movie, animatronic creature thing. And we've got a couple other films and TV shows that we've been working on that I hope will go. So more horror, more comedy, more badass female leads, and practical effects. That's my jam, really.
Yeah, like I was gonna say, please do stay with the practical, because you got a knack for it. You've got a good team for it, because that's one of my favorite things about Puppet Killer, is the fact that you kept it practical, and that's the way you have to go. It's a bit more faffy, but it looks better.
Thank you. And you know what? That was a fight. I didn't know if I was going to win, and thank God it paid off, because I fought hard on that one. And that was one of those ones where I'd go home at the end of the day and be like, ooh, I'm going to fall on this sort of loan if we don't make it. But it worked. And I mean, I've always been inspired by people like Alec Gillis and all of those amazing creature designers out there. And I'm really lucky that Alec has started mentoring me and given me like really cool input on my chupacabras. And I got to kill Alec Gillis in a movie that we shot during quarantine. So the community's been really kind. I think when we are all nerds about the same things, all we want is more of the thing, right? So in any capacity we can make creatures and kill people with puppets, I say let's do it.
Yeah. So, Lisa, I have one more question, but first of all, thank you for putting Puppet Killer into Romford Horror. Thank you for letting all of our patrons see this movie up on the big screen, because I believe, I mean, obviously this will be as it's on, but we have got pretty much a sold out like festival. The whole weekend is going to be chock-a-block. So
I'm so jealous, by the way. I want to be there so bad.
But the last thing I want to end on, and after that you can let people know where they can find you and everything like that. But the last thing I want to end on is a question that I like to ask people now, because when I talk to filmmakers, creators, directors, actors, everything like that, when I talk to these people and you ask them about when they saw the movie on the screen and all that, they tell you about the things that they saw that went wrong and the things that weren't great. I like to ask my guests, what's the thing you saw up on the screen when you watched Puppet Killer that you thought, we nailed that, and you're super proud of?
Oh, what a great question. I don't want to spoiler this too much,
Hmm.
but it's a scene on the bed. And that was
Yeah,
hard.
yeah,
That was all practical. That was like almost a one shot for a lot of what we got. And that was fucking hard. Yeah, I'd say that. I think that in general. And then in an audience watching people watch it, there's a moment close to the end where everyone goes, "Oh," and they get sad and they lean in at the wrong time. Like if you were logical, you'd go, "That's not right. You shouldn't feel that way." But
yeah.
the fact that everyone does, I kind of am like, "Oh, we nailed it."
Excellent.
Yeah. So those two moments for me.
Excellent, excellent. And if you just want to let people know where they can find Lisa and where they can see Puppet Killer once the festival's done, and just pimp yourself for a second.
Thanks. I don't know where it's playing next. We just decided to drop it back on the festival circuit because we pulled it during COVID when things went online. So I'm really hoping it'll play in more festivals. I own a company called Rogue Studios. If anyone's interested in our female film schools or anything like that, Rogue Studios. .ca, I'm assuming, is our website. I'm very bad at social media, but I'm trying. Lisa Ovies on Instagram, Rogue Studios on Instagram. I think Puppet Killer has an Instagram too.
Yeah, it does.
But yeah, I don't know. We're just out there trying to make more fucked up horror.
Please do, please
And
do. I
making
love it.
people smile. That's our big goal. So
And come back every year to Romford Hover, whether you're showing Puppet Killer again or your next feature. We don't mind.
oh my God, don't say that. I'll play Puppet Killer again and I'll come. Like, I'll do it. I would die to see it in a theater with an audience again. You don't know how, or just to be at a horror film festival, even without
Yeah.
my product, would be like, I miss the horror humans.